Zeus. Basically, this guy was the boss of the entire universe and was essentially the king of the gods in Greek mythology. However, he wasn't just king because he had an impressive beard and a golden throne. He was king because he was the god of the sky, which meant he could literally control the weather, make it rain, sunny, or snow. He even had a special weapon called the Thunderbolt, which was a bolt of lightning he could hurl at anyone who got on his bad side. Zeus could also shapeshift, so he would literally turn into animals, other people, or even inanimate objects whenever it suited him. It was like having a divine Swiss Army knife. He was married to Hera, the goddess of marriage and family. You'd think being married to the king of the gods would be a sweet deal, right? Well, not so much for Hera, because Zeus was, let's say, a bit of a player who had a wandering eye. He would have affairs with other goddesses, mortals, and nymphs, like the guy had more love interests than episodes of a soap opera. In all things, Zeus was the ultimate power player and played a central role in almost every major myth. Whether it was sending storms, deciding the fates of mortals, or just trying to keep the other gods from causing too much chaos, Zeus was always at the heart of the action. He was a protector, a punisher, and sometimes even a prankster. Hera. So if you were a woman born in ancient Greece and wanted to get married, stay happily married, or even give birth to your children safely, Hera was the goddess you'd want to make sacrifices and prayers to because she was the one in charge of marriage, women, childbirth, and family. Basically, she was the protector of all things related to home and health, which is super ironic because her marriage to Zeus was nothing close to perfect. As the queen of the gods, Hera was a powerful goddess in her own right that had the power to bless or curse marriages, ensure fertility, or deny it, and was also a fierce protector of women, unless you became one of her husband's many lovers. You see, Hera had the unenviable job of being married to the biggest philanderer in mythology. Zeus's wandering eye, and everything else, kept her busier than a single mom with twin toddlers and 3 jobs, so she actually spent most of her time tracking Zeus's affairs. But instead of going after Zeus directly, because let's face it, it's hard to zap the king of the gods, she often took out her anger on his lovers and their children. Hera was the original "hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." She'd transform rivals into animals, send monsters after Zeus's kids, and generally make life miserable for anyone who caught her husband's eye. Talk about a toxic relationship. Poseidon. If you often go to the beach to take a swim, or even fish with your friends, then according to Greek mythology, you were in Poseidon's territory. Poseidon was one of Zeus's brothers, along with Hades, and together they divided up the universe like 3 kids picking teams for a game of cosmic dodgeball. Zeus got the sky, Hades got the underworld, and Poseidon got the seas. It was a pretty sweet deal for Poseidon, considering that about 70% of the earth is covered in water. The god of water also had a signature weapon called the trident, a 3-pronged spear that could do just about anything. Need a storm to scare off some pesky sailors? Trident. Want to cause an earthquake? Trident. Feeling a little artistic and wanting to create a new island? You guessed it, trident. Poseidon's trident was literally like the best of godly tools. He was also known for his ability to create and control water in all its forms. This guy could whip up hurricanes, tsunamis, and whirlpools like he was mixing drinks at a beach bar. But he wasn't just about destruction, because he also created springs, rivers, and other bodies of water that were crucial for life. Poseidon was married to Aphrodite, a sea goddess, and together they had several children, including Triton, who was basically the merman version of a prince. But like his brother Zeus, Poseidon wasn't exactly a one-woman man. He had numerous affairs with goddesses and mortals, resulting in quite a few offspring. Maybe being a god automatically means being a serial cheat. Hades. Hades is the guy who ran the most exclusive and permanent retirement home in all of mythology, aka the Underworld. As the original goth god, he got the short end of the stick when he was made god of the Underworld, which made him the ruler of the dead. However, the guy wasn't all grim, black, and evil. He was more like a very stern, no-nonsense CEO who just happened to oversee all the souls of the departed. However, Hades had a bit of a reputation for being gloomy, but let's be honest, if your job were ruling ruling the land of the dead, you probably wouldn't be all sunshine and rainbows either. But despite his somber demeanor, Hades was actually quite fair. He wasn't out to punish the dead, he just made sure everyone stayed dead. Hades was married to Persephone, the goddess of spring, who he actually kidnapped and brought to the underworld to be his queen. Just like his brothers, the god of the underworld also had some cool accessories to go with his spooky aesthetic. He owned a helmet of invisibility and had a three-headed dog named Cerberus as a pet. Imagine the pet food bills for that pup. Today, Hades is often misunderstood as the bad guy because of his association with death, but the truth is that he is actually one of the fairer gods. He didn't play favorites and treated all souls equally in death. In Greek mythology, he is seen as the god who maintained the balance between life and death. Demeter. Let's just say that if this particular goddess were still around, then there probably wouldn't be any famine or a lack of food for anybody. This is because Demeter was the Greek goddess of agriculture, grain, and the harvest. She was the one responsible for making sure crops grew, fields were fertile, and the seasons changed. Basically, she was the ultimate green thumb, the OG farm-to-table enthusiast, and the reason why we are not all still hunting and gathering. Demeter was one of the 12 Olympians, which means she is the daughter of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, and the sister of Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. However, unlike some of her more dramatic siblings, Demeter was known for being nurturing and protective, especially toward her daughter, Persephone. This means that when her daughter was kidnapped by Hades, who is actually her uncle, all hell broke loose, quite literally. She neglected her duties, causing a worldwide famine, and wandered the earth searching for her daughter. The whole Persephone situation led to the creation of seasons, because when Persephone was in the underworld, Demeter would sulk and nothing would grow, aka winter. But when Persephone returned, Demeter would do her happy dance and make everything bloom. Talk about seasonal affective disorder on a godly scale. Athena. If you ever find yourself in a tricky situation where you need both brains and strength, then Athena is the goddess you'd want on your side. She's like the ultimate combination of a warrior, strategist, and mentor all rolled into one. Athena was the Greek goddess of wisdom, war, the strategic kind, not the smash and bash kind, and crafts. She was known for her calm and rational demeanor, her strategic mind, and her unmatched skills in battle. Athena represented the intelligent side of war, as she was all about planning, strategy, and winning with the least amount of bloodshed possible. As the goddess of wisdom, Athena was basically the walking, talking Google of ancient Greece. Need to solve a riddle? Ask Athena. Need advice on your relationship? Ask Athena. Looking to weave a tapestry? Athena's still your gal. In one of Athena's most famous stories, Poseidon and Athena both wanted to be patrons of the city, which is now known as Athens. Poseidon offered the people a saltwater spring because what else could he even offer? Athena, on the other hand, gave them olive trees, which provided food, oil, and wood. Well, the Athenians chose the olive tree, proving that even in ancient times, people preferred their martinis over plain old water. Today, she's well known as a symbol of wisdom, courage, and the power of strategy. Apollo. Apollo, often described as the most beautiful of the gods, is the poster boy for overachievement in Greek mythology. This guy collected divine domains like they were Pokemon. God of light, music, poetry, prophecy, medicine, archery, the list goes on. Talk about a divine jack of all trades. First off, Apollo was the god of the sun, and every day he drove his chariot across the sky, bringing light to the world. He was also the god of music, which means he was literally the original rock star. His lyre playing could charm gods, mortals, and animals alike. He was the leader of the Muses, the goddesses of the arts and sciences. If you've ever had a burst of creativity, you might have Apollo to thank for that. Apollo was also the god of prophecy, and his oracle at Delphi was the hottest ticket in town for anyone wanting to know the future. Of course, the prophecies were usually as clear as mud and open to interpretation. It's like the guy was running a divine fortune cookie factory. One of Apollo's most famous and tragic love stories involves the nymph Daphne. The sun god was struck by one of Cupid's arrows and fell madly in love with Daphne, but she wanted nothing to do with him. As Apollo pursued her, Daphne prayed to her father, a river god, for help, and he transformed her into a laurel tree. Heartbroken, Apollo made the laurel his sacred tree, and ever since, laurel wreaths have been associated with victory and honor. In all of this, Apollo's influence has endured for thousands of years. His name is still synonymous with light, music, and prophecy. Even the Apollo missions that sent humans to the moon were named in his honor, symbolizing the pursuit of knowledge and the exploration of new frontiers, values that Apollo himself would have appreciated. Artemis. If you're one of those people who love to stay outdoors, either hiking, hunting, or just being one with nature, then you would probably have been excellent friends with Artemis. That's if she ever had human friends. This was because Artemis, the twin sister of Apollo, was the goddess of the hunt, wilderness, and animals. Like if there was ever a goddess you'd want on your side for a camping trip or a hunt, Artemis would be your go-to gal. While Apollo was associated with the sun, Artemis was connected to the moon, making them a perfect celestial pair. It's like they were the original day and night shift workers of the cosmos. But unlike her brother, who was more about civilization and culture, Artemis was all about the great outdoors. Think forests, mountains, and everything that roams within them. She was often depicted as a young, athletic woman with a bow and arrow, which is basically the embodiment of nature's wild and untamed spirit. But when she wasn't busy hunting, she was protecting young animals and girls. It's like she was running a divine wildlife preserve and girls' summer camp all at once. One of Artemis's sacred animals was the bear. In fact, young girls who served at her shrine in Attica were called little bears. It's like a really intense version of Girl Scouts, where instead of selling cookies, you learn to commune with nature and shoot arrows. Aries. This guy covered up the fact that he had severe anger issues with the fact that he was the god of war and violence. Aries was the child of Zeus and Hera and the problem child of the entire Olympian family. Even his own parents couldn't stand him most of the time. Zeus once famously said that if Aries hadn't been his son, he would have thrown him out of Olympus. Talk about daddy issues. You would expect that the god of war would know how to do all the careful planning and strategic thinking things, but that was none of Aries' business. He represented the chaotic, violent, and often senseless aspects of war. He was the god who reveled in the bloodshed, the screams, and the fury of battle, and would literally dive headfirst into a fight just for the thrill of it. Despite being the god of war, Aries had a pretty lousy track record in actual fights. He got beaten up by mortals, trapped in a bronze jar by giants, and was constantly being shown up by his half-sister Athena. However, he was still a powerhouse on the battlefield with immense physical strength and a master of all sorts of weapons. Aries was hot-headed and impulsive, with a quick temper and a love for conflict. He didn't shy away from a fight, whether it was with mortals or other gods. But this same passion and aggression also made him unpopular, even among the other Olympians. He was often seen as a necessary evil, a god who had to exist because war was an inevitable part of life, but not someone you'd invite to a dinner party. There are tons of Greek gods to explore, and the best place to get all the information is by joining our Discord server today. Aphrodite. If love makes the world go round, then Aphrodite was the divine force behind it, pulling the strings of attraction and desire throughout the ancient world. Aphrodite was the Greek goddess of love, beauty, and desire, and was often regarded as the most beautiful of all the gods and goddesses, embodying the ideal of physical perfection. But her influence went far beyond just appearances, because she also had the power to stir up love, passion, and even jealousy among both gods and mortals. It's kind of like those Love Island bombshells when they just enter the villa. Her origins are as dramatic as her love life. According to one myth, Aphrodite was born from the sea foam that formed around Uranus's severed parts when they were thrown into the ocean by Cronus. She emerged from the waves near the island of Cyprus, fully grown and radiantly beautiful. Even though she was married to Hephaestus, the god of fire and metalworking, their union is the classic tale of beauty and the blacksmith. Our girl Aphrodite had a wandering eye, among other things, and had numerous affairs, most famously with Aries. It's like she was playing divine musical chairs, but with boyfriends. Hermes. In today's world, Hermes is probably the owner of Amazon, DHL, and Uber. This was because this guy was literally the messenger of the gods, equipped with winged sandals, a winged cap, and a magic wand called the caduceus. It's like he was the original superhero, minus the cape and with better footwear. He could travel between the mortal world and the divine realm faster than you can say priority shipping. Aside from being a messenger god, he was the god of commerce, thieves, travelers, sports, athletes, and border crossings. This guy had more jobs than a college student trying to pay off loans. As the patron god of travelers, he was the divine equivalent of a GPS, travel agent, and roadside assistance all rolled into one. He was also associated with trade, merchants, and thieves. He protected travelers and traders on their journeys, but he also had a soft spot for those who were a bit more, let's say, resourceful. His association with thieves wasn't because he was a criminal, but because he admired cleverness and cunning. In his spare time, as if he had any, Hermes invented things like the Greek alphabet, numbers, astronomy, boxing, and gymnastics. It's like he was the divine as seen on TV guy, always coming up with the next big thing.